And welcome to Imagination Fun Time. I am your host, Brandon Devine. Hello, how are you? It has been a hot minute since I've recorded an episode of my podcast. It's been probably about 5-6 months, something like that. I think since like September or August, something like that. The truth is, I've been in jail. I committed a horrible robbery out of desperation. I robbed a gas station. Several people died, unfortunately. That's just the nature of, robbing a gas station. Sometimes, they just don't give the money. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. And naturally, I got caught, but I got out of it. Technicality, I had to spend like 6 months in jail, so it's okay. Okay, for those of you who are mad at me for making such a dark joke right now, I'm fucking kidding. I was not in jail. I just been, busy doing stuff. Life gets in the way. Been busy doing, just trying to make money, get my life together, figuring out the next move, stuff like that. A lot of stuff has happened in the past 6 months. Finally got to go back to New York. Got to see New York City again for the first time in probably 5-6 years, something like that. The longest stretch I've gone without seeing my favorite place in the entire world. Got to see all my family, great family wedding, stuff like that. I recorded a voiceover demo in the fall, trying to break into the voiceover industry. Hopefully this podcast is a way that will be able to help me get along with that. Showcase my amazing voice. Let's see, what else have I done? Oh yeah, and I've been starting to get involved in local theater. I did a Christmas play at the Arkansas Public Theater in Rogers, Arkansas. I played a small minor role of a medic and a fireman, and I've also been auditioning for their upcoming plays. Haven't got cast in anything yet, but here's hoping. As an actor, that's the nature of the game. You win some, you lose some. It's all part of life. Just got to keep going with it. I've been volunteering with them, ushering, and trying to help out. So we'll see what happens. Basically, other than that, since the last podcast, I remember on the last podcast I was talking about how I was really bummed because they still hadn't released a trailer for The Matrix Resurrections, and now obviously since then the movie has come out, and I could spend probably an entire podcast episode, multiple, talking about my mixed feelings about that movie. So that's just the best way to describe it. As a diehard Matrix fan, I had very mixed feelings about the episode. So, you win some, you lose some. I still love the Matrix, no matter what. All right. But that's enough about me and my boring-ass life, because I'm sure that's why none of you tuned in today to listen to me rattle on about my shitty, boring-ass life here in Arkansas. You tuned in to listen to me talk about movies. So, before we do that, let's read some news. What's going on in the world of IMDb today? All right, so today, as of today, Monday, February 28th, 2022, at 2:11 p.m., the top news on IMDb is about the SAG Awards. SAG Awards, Coda, Ted Lasso, Succession takes top prize in politically charged telecast because, of course, yes, it is truly terrible what's going on in the Ukraine right now. It's fucking horrible. That sucks, and it's terrible, terrible shit. And naturally, when horrific occurrences in humanity happen, naturally, Hollywood actors have to tune in and show that they really care and want to somehow take charge, even though they have no business taking charge of anything political, and should just shut the fuck up and continue acting the way I want to. I didn't watch the SAG Awards, but I'm sure there were a lot of good winners. Tom Holland's Uncharted nears $150 million at international box office and crosses $220 million box office globally. I mean, it's good at least, a movie that's not a major, well, technically it is part of a franchise, but it's like a video game franchise, and at least it's doing well. I've heard it's gotten some decent reviews. And Tom Holland, Mark Wahlberg, that seems like a great combination, just in general. Okay. Tina Fey, Steve Martin, Conan O'Brien, and more, including, as I know, Elliot Gould, Paul Rudd, induct John Mulaney into the SNL Five Timers Club. John Mulaney fucking killed it again on SNL. Fucking killed it. He did such an amazing job. The Subway Churro was fucking great as always. Another amazing musical number. And I'm sure that, in the next year or two, we're going to get another episode of John Mulaney. So, way to go, SNL. And finally, the NAACP Image Award 2022 winners, The Harder They Fall, Jennifer Hudson and Will Smith take top honors. I've heard that The Harder They Fall is a really good film. I haven't watched it, but a western that can help defy the typical standards and traditions of a western and still make a really great movie is really awesome. And, it's definitely a movie I do need to check out. There's still tons of shit I need to check out. But anyways, so let's get into what you tuned into this episode to hear me ramble on about. And that is a little movie from 1979 called Alien. Okay, to start off, the movie is called, obviously, Alien. Alien is a movie that was written by it was a screenplay that was written by Dan O'Bannon, based on a story by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shust. I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm really sorry if I'm screwing that up. The movie was produced by Gordon Carroll, David Geiler, and the great Walter Hill. And it is directed by the legendary, amazing, a true hero of mine in life, the amazing Ridley Scott, in what became arguably his big breakthrough film. It wasn't his first major film, that was The Duelist, but this was the big break. This was definitely his big breakthrough, was Alien. The movie was originally released on, look at that, another amazing day to release a movie, May 25th, 1979. For those of you who don't know, May 25th is my birthday. So, ha ha ha. I was born 14 years after this movie was released. That's pretty awesome. The star of the movies is Sigourney Weaver, Tom Skerritt, Veronica Cartwright, Harry Dean Stanton, John Hurt, Ian Holmes, Yaphet Kotto, and Bolaji Badigia. I'm so sorry, man. With my dyslexia, it's super hard for me to pronounce names. Bolaji Badejo. I'm super sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. He's the man who portrays the alien in the movie, and the rest portray humans. So the basic plot line of Alien, for those of you who don't know, it's an industrial spacecraft crew. They're just like a bunch of blue-collar space workers, like basically oil rig workers in space, or truckers in space, as they were kind of described in the script. They intercepted a mysterious transmission out in space coming from a mysterious planet of unknown origins. So they land, they check out where the transmission is coming from. They discover it is coming from a mysterious alien spacecraft. So the crew enter the spacecraft to investigate. They come across a bunch of mysterious eggs. The eggs end up releasing a creature that attaches to one of the crew members. The crew members take that crew member back aboard their spaceship. The creature ends up turning into a giant monster that starts killing them one by one, aka Alien. The whole basic plot line of the movie, it's a haunted house movie. And for those of you who can just picture what a haunted house movie is, a group of people go inside the mysterious haunted house, and one by one, they're slowly picked off by the monster or monsters or whatever creepy crawly thing is inside. Except this time, it's in space, millions and millions of miles away from Earth, or any other humans for that matter. And slowly they're picked off by this giant monstrous alien. I didn't actually watch this movie. this movie has become it's on this movie actually is on my top 10 in my official top 10 list of movies of all time. It's ranked at number 7, and currently I have a framed poster for Alien hanging on my wall in my about 4 or 5 feet from where I'm sitting right now. Alien, I always grew up as a kid. I always heard that it was just this super super scary movie. And as a kid, I hated horror films, and I still, for the most part, hate horror films because they're scary. But I just never watched it because I just heard it was like, my friends always told me it was just this super scary monster movie. And then when I was about 18. Yeah, I was 18, my first year of college. That was the year, I remember it was the trailer for Prometheus came out, which is a prequel to the Alien series. And I just thought, like, wow, that is a cool trailer. And I was like, wait, this seems kind of familiar. I feel like I've seen this before. And it was because, I've seen, pop culture references to Alien. And I think I've probably seen a trailer once or twice. So it just looked familiar. So I looked it up and was saying, like, okay, so this is part of the Alien series. And it just dawned on me, like, wait, that didn't look all that scary. It looked, basically just like what you imagine a real science fiction movie would be, which is, instead of us getting along with the aliens and, becoming friends with them, they're going to try and fucking kill us, which is probably what's going to happen when humans eventually meet extraterrestrial life. They're going to probably attack us and try to eat us. So through that, I started watching the movies. Started with the first one and then moving on to Aliens and then the other 2 crappy sequels after that, which shouldn't really count, but somehow do. And just dawned on me, like, wow, I shouldn't have been really that scared of this movie. This is a pretty, it's scary because people get killed, but it's like, it's not like I didn't really think of it that much of as a horror film. I still really don't. It's scary. Like, there's still, like, shocking moments that'll, like, make you jump. But overall, it's just basically, it's almost like an educational film of like what could really happen when humankind becomes advanced enough that we are able to explore like really deep outer space, millions of miles from home. We're going to find extraterrestrial life, and who knows, maybe some of them will be friendly and nice and all that stuff, but there's probably going to be a lot of them that are like regular predators that we find here on Earth that are going to try to attack us and kill us. All right, so let's get into the production. Let's see, what's this movie all about? Okay, so the movie gets its origin starting back in the early 1970s through the Godfather, arguably the godfather of the new age Hollywood cinema, Roger Corman, and Mr. John Carpenter. Dan O'Bannon was working with Carpenter on a low-budget sci-fi movie called Dark Star while he was in college. The movie was intended to be, what kind of like what Alien turned out to be, like kind of, astronauts fighting a monster an alien monster in space, but it just turned out to be, because of the real low budget, and it just turned into a more comedic kind of film. But instilled them that that Dan really wanted to make a true science fiction movie. So he started writing the outline, the script with Ronald around the time that they made Dark Star, which also is around the time that they started writing the script for a movie that was made in the early 90s called Total Recall. Through Dan O'Bannon stated that because the script from Alien draws inspiration from just, at this point it was the early 1970s, so, the past 40, 50 years of science fiction work, from both print and movies. Dan O'Bannon stated, "I didn't steal Alien from anybody. I stole it from everybody." There's tons and tons of movies and science fiction books and magazines that have various that you can find various homages to Alien or like almost like plot lines to Alien in. But that's like a common thing that you find in a lot of movies. Like my idol Tarantino, you find his movies are basically every one of his movies is basically an homage to like tons of other movies and television. So in Alien, for example, the classic '50s movie Forbidden Planet, Banyan said gave him the idea of a ship being warned not to land, and then the crew being killed after that when they defied a warning. A movie called Planet of Vampires, where the heroes find a giant alien skeleton. A short story called The Junkyard by a man named Clifford D. Simak, I think I how you pronounce his name, where a crew lands on an asteroid and discovers a chamber full of eggs. The Thing from Another World, a movie from 1951, said the idea of professional men being pursued by an alien creature through a claustrophobic environment. These guys all grew up in the 50s when science fiction B movies, giant creature films, 3D movies, like I said, Forbidden Planet, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Those were all like the big sci-fi movies of the 50s, and those were some of the biggest movies of the 50s and 60s. So, all those inspirations started helping Dan and Ronald, a lot Dan, figure out, how can they take all their love and make this into like the ultimate kind of alien movie. And apparently, their biggest breakthrough for the script was the facehugger idea, because the facehugger was the way for, okay, that's how the creature gets on board the alien ship. I mean the cruise ship, the Nostromo, because kind of like the obvious way would be like they land on the planet, they explore the spaceship. And while they're exploring the ship, like the creature mysteriously sneaks out of the spaceship and stows away onto the cruise ship, onto the Nostromo. That would be like the most obvious choice. And they didn't want to do that. Or at least I think they didn't want to do that. So the facehugger idea, like I said, that's the chamber full of eggs. The facehugger attaches itself to Kane, and they have to rush Kane back to the ship. Ridley originally did not want them to bring Kane aboard because he was infected, and it would have, it's like, living in the modern world of COVID. If people are infected, you don't want to be near them. So they broke the rules, defied the warning, brought the monster onto the ship, and basically everybody died. So the facehugger idea was the way of getting the alien on board the ship, and then that's when they realized, okay, we got it. Now we can really build the script. Producers Walter Hill and Geiler said that the one thing that was added to the script that was like their idea, that wasn't really the idea of O'Banion or Ronald, was the idea of having Ash as an android. Which, is always cool. Android. Technically, Ash didn't really need to be an android at all throughout the movie. He could have just been like a super corrupt, I'm following orders no matter what kind of businessman, military kind of guy. Instead, you make him an android, and it makes, he's literally programmed in his brain to follow all these crazy orders. So, and it was one of Ian Holmes' greatest roles, and one of his most iconic roles, besides that of Bilbo Baggins and stuff. So let's see. One of the greatest aspects of Alien is the design. The whole movie has this really creepy ass design. Before science fiction, it has a very dark design. The alien ship that they find on the planet where the creatures and the eggs are, the whole thing is just dark. It is so dark, scary, gothic, mysterious, unlike, everything else science fiction beforehand, what is more bright, very bright colors, very light colors, kind of futuristic looking. The alien ship really just looks like old school alien industrial look. So the whole, and it's because this is all because the lead designer of the Alien, the lead production designer, is a man named H.R. Geiger, who is this insane, I think he's Swedish, this insane artist who just, his art falls into a genre he created that's called biomechanical, which is basically what it sounds like, fusing human biology with machines. And it's really hard to describe his work, just through audio and through a podcast. Like, you have to, watching Alien, that's his work right there. That's how you can imagine. That's literally his design. His work is watching Alien. He is the one who designed the space jockey, the giant alien corpse that they find sitting in the driver's seat of the alien ship. He also designed the whole other factor of the ship and the design and stuff like that. So, H.R. Geiger's this really cool artist. He's designed I'm pretty sure he's dead at this point, but he helped design so many other cool things. He worked on some other movies that I'm not sure off the top of my head. I do know he designed a microphone stand for the lead singer of Korn, Jonathan. He's got this sick ass microphone stand that was designed by H.R. Geiger that he still uses to this day. It's so cool. And there's really cool books online that you could go buy online or in your local bookstores. Art books about HR that I really want to get because his work looks so fucking fascinating. It's insane. All right, so moving on. So they wrote the script in the early to mid 70s, but they just couldn't, the classic Hollywood story, they couldn't get studios interested at the time to make the movie. No studio at the time was willing to, and I'm stating this again, in the early to mid 70s, none of the studios were willing to finance a giant major science fiction film like this. Before this, at this point, when they had written the script, the biggest, most successful science fiction movie at that time was probably 2001: Space Odyssey, and still one of the most successful to this day. But studios just weren't willing to do that, to invest the amount of money truly needed for this movie. They weren't willing to invest until a little movie in 1977 called Star Wars came out. I'm sure you've all heard Star Wars. I mean, I think I've heard of it. I should have heard of it because I have the Jedi symbol tattooed on my back. I really do have the Jedi symbol tattooed on my back. So, in 1977, Star Wars came out, and it was through that they were finally able to get 20th Century Fox. After Star Wars came out, tons and studios realized oh wait, there is a lot of money to be made in science fiction because Star Wars became the biggest movie of all time and completely changed cinema and pop culture forever. So studios realized, okay, yep, there's money to be made in this. So naturally they start looking around, what other science fiction movies can be made? Oh, Alien. Let's go forward with Alien. So thanks to it was really, in a lot of ways, it's because of Star Wars that we got to have Alien. So thank you, George Lucas. Good job. Let's see. Ron Cobb and Chris Foss were the lead designers of the Nostromo, which were shot using both models and full-size interior sets. This is honestly truly, may sound kind of weird, but this is truly the thing about this movie that I fucking love the most. I have a deep love of science fiction vehicles like starships, hovercrafts, all sorts of stuff. This dating back to my love of the Matrix. My dream with the Matrix is I've always wanted to be a crew member. Still to this day, I've always wanted to be on one of those hovercrafts. I want to drive one of those hovercrafts. And so that got me interested, like almost every other, like any science fiction movie that, takes place in like a cool space station or a spaceship, starship, anything like that, cool interiors. It hooks me because it just gets me into that fantasy of like, I want to be there. And then this Alien is one of the best examples of that, because while the exterior shots when you see like the ship going through space, those are all just models. Those are all models in the same way that, the original Star Wars shot, the Star Destroyer, Death Star, all that stuff. It was just all big models. But the interior of the ship, that was a full real set. Every bit of that ship was connected. All 3 floors were fully connected in sound stages. Designed where the crew could mount the cameras behind the walls and take things apart, but you could move throughout the entire ship, move from the cockpit into the breakfast nook, into the crew quarters, into the dungeons below, into Dallas's captain's chair room thing, whatever it is. The whole place is fully connected, which costs a lot of money and it's really hard to do. But that to me is just so cool. I would have had so much fun just being in that set. It would have gotten really claustrophobic for sure, but that's to me is just so fucking cool. Roger Christensen was the head production designer for the sets, and he had just won an Oscar for Star Wars at that point. So that's, at that point, it's good that they got the man who helped design all the stuff for Star Wars. It's like, hey, come do this other major science fiction film that's going to become a cultural phenomenon. The look that they were going for was a used industrial look. For the Nostromo. The whole truckers in space aspect is really what they were going for with a lot of the feel and aura of the film. Hence why all the crew members literally, they don't look like, science fiction explorers or anything like that. They literally look like blue collar truckers that you would find at a bar. They'd find at your local dive bar. So the whole design of the ship was based around that. H.R. Geiger designed all the alien aspects himself, though, airbrushing all the sets himself. One of the claustrophobia aspect of the Nostromo set being fully connected really assisted in the actors in the performance of feeling that there's no escape from this monster. Which is true. Even when you yell cut, they're still in between takes. They're still inside the place where the monster is. So it kind of gives you that you gotta get crazy during a movie. When you're making a movie, you gotta really feel like you're really on a mission to making a movie. You gotta really believe in everything. So just believing in between takes, almost like method acting. Of just knowing that there's no escape from this haunted house right now. So the space jock, what's interesting, what's really cool about the space jockey set that H.R. Geiger designed, the whole interior of the big alien spaceship, is what you see in the movie is full real scale. It took up an entire huge soundstage to create the jockey room. Originally, and that costs a lot of that costs a lot of money. And originally, studio did not want it to be that big of a set because it was only one scene. It's only a one scene shot. They're not using it for the whole movie. If it was being used for multiple scenes throughout the movie, then yeah, they probably would have gone for it. But it was just this one scene of them in the ship and finding the skeleton and stuff like that. But the reason that Ridley, HR, and all the them really pushed them have it built in real scale, being however tall it was, 50, 60, 70 to 100 feet. It's literally a huge factory sized place. They wanted it to be that big and real because they wanted the audience to know this is a movie on the same level as Star Wars. Science fiction has changed. We're truly going into the future. We're not having science fiction movies look like 50s B movies anymore. Not look like, cut like this stuff could have been made by like high schoolers or something. We want this to look real. We want the people to feel the same kind of fear and anxiety that the crew is feeling exploring this giant alien ship. So they did. And it worked really well, and I'm so glad that they did it. One of the other things that they did, though, to help make it to scale even more was using kids. In the shots where, the camera pulls back and you see the space jockey and stuff like that, to help give it even more scale of, like, this is a huge room, the actors that you see on screen, the three heroes, it's actually children doing that. It's actually children in spacesuits because they're a few feet much shorter than the adults, so it'll give it a bigger scale. Smaller people, bigger scale. So that was pretty cool. They did that in the shots of the space jockey and the shots of them being lowered from the Nostromo and the big Nostromo ship leg and stuff like that. The last thing I want to talk about was Kane. So originally John Hurt was not supposed to be in the movie. He originally passed on the movie because he was involved in another movie. He was working on another movie at the time. So the original actor they had cast as Kane was, I forget his name. Did I write it down? I did not. So the original actor they had for Kane was on set. Everything was going well. It's the first day of shooting. First scene they're shooting with Kane. He gets on the set. They call action. And this guy literally looks like he's about to roll over and die. Like, he just looks so ill and sick. And they're like, what's going on? And he's like, I can't, I don't feel good. I don't know what's going on. And they literally had to, like, lift him out of his chair, and they had to, like, get him to a hospital and stuff like that. And it turns out, they found out that at that point that he was a diabetic. So, so they did, so at that point, he had to be dropped from the movie. And luckily enough, John Hurt was now available to take over the role as Kane. And it became one of John Hurt's most iconic roles. The last thing I'll talk about, which is probably one of the most common behind-the-scene knowledges of Alien, but I'll tell you again anyways. The chest burster scene, which is the most iconic shot of the entire movie, the original chest burster scene, that was a moment in movie theaters that literally at the time, in 1979, made people faint. That doesn't sound that scary nowadays, but in 79, that alien bursting out of his chest like that literally made people... Because it's still bloody and gory as fuck. But just like compared to, modern slasher horror films, it's not that bloody. But that whole thing was pure practical effects. It was special effects, but pure practicality. Everything done real on the day. And none of the actors, except for, John Hurt, he knew it was coming because he was, the one being shot out of. But the other actors didn't know what it was going to look like. They didn't know it was going to be like that. They knew something was going to happen. They just didn't know what. So the shots of genuine shock that the actors have on their face, that's real. Because they weren't expecting, his chest to start bursting out like that and the fucking creature to jump out all like that and blood and guts flying everywhere. But and it was like everything was real, like the blood splurting on the actors, everything. All those reactions were 100% real. And that's one of the brilliant parts of filmmaking is like, almost like a director like kind of fucking with with his or her actors. I'm not going to tell him that this is going to happen, and I'm going to get the reaction, and it's going to add to the story. It's just pretty, you know, it's kind of a funny thing to do, but it worked really well, and they used all those shots in the movies, and it's become the iconic, beautiful scene that it's become. Let's see, is there really any theme to end? Like, what are the themes of Alien? Caution. Use caution, I guess, is always a theme. Having caution. Going with your gut, I guess. Your gut instincts might be right. Ridley's gut instincts were right. Let's see. I guess I should also mention, like, for those of you who don't know, like, this whole movie, like, with Ridley being the hero, was also a truly amazing milestone moment in not only science fiction, but movie history, with a woman being the big action hero star of the movie. And, she went on to star in, like, 3 other movies, notably Aliens, where she was nominated for an Academy Award for the role of Ridley. Sigourney Weaver really broke a barrier with this movie in showing that women can lead a big budget action movie, that the women can be the big hero and be, people should have realized that, decades and decades ago, but how, society, society sucks. But Sigourney broke through so much of Ridley, and truly changed the game for women, and that's just fucking awesome. She is the true queen of sci-fi. All right, so that's really all I have to say about Alien. Thank you all for listening. If you've made it this far into the podcast, it's been a long hot minute since I recorded one of these. I actually have all my notes set up for the next podcast, which I'll record probably within the next week or so. And, I'm going to keep, I really fell out of this. I just, life gets in the way, depression gets in the way, but just realizing that, I want to keep going forward with this. I like having this podcast. It makes me feel good. I love doing it. I like talking to you people, even though I don't know who any of you are. And I just, just even if I'm talking, I'm sitting in my room by myself, just talking about movies and television makes me happier than anything. So, thank you for listening. This is your host, Brandon Devine, and thank you for tuning in this amazing new episode of Imagination Fun Time. Until next time, I don't really know. I felt like I was going to have something witty to say, but I don't really. Please just go watch some good movies. Go watch Alien. If you've never watched Alien, please go watch Alien. It's a great movie. All right? And so that's it. Tune in next time. Until then, thank you very much, folks.